My name is Olivia Smeenk.
And I'm Brooklyn Courtney Mills.
A little more than 7 years ago, our moms became friends and began starting the charitable foundation in support of children, families, and individuals suffering in chronic pain from Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. When the charity started all those years ago, the focus was on peer support and bringing individuals with EDS together in person. At the start, I went to these events to support Brooklyn and the work that our moms were doing. I met countless individuals and families who are living their lives to the fullest despite all of the difficulties that they face every day. As groups of people would share their stories with me, I began reflecting back on experiences that I had also had. Experiences like at 18 months old being diagnosed with failure to thrive and having Child Protective Services inspect our home with the possibility of separating our family due to the lack of knowledge and expertise. Now we know that my digestive system does not function effectively due to a number of conditions, IBS, gastroparesis, low motility. Many of you patients probably experience these things as well. At the time, though, I was naive to what was going on in my own body because I did attribute everything to a rare genetic condition that I was born with and diagnosed with at Sick Kids when I was only 13 years old. The more that the EDS patients shared their stories with me, the more I remembered feeling so different growing up, like I didn't fit in because I couldn't keep up with my peers. That being said, I never would have expected that I too would get a diagnosis of EDS. Brooklyn and I became fast friends, and over the last several years, we have been through more than most could begin to imagine. The most bizarre being that 2 weeks before I was meant to have tethered cord release surgery in May of 2016, Brooklyn ended up in the ER, being transferred to the same hospital, to the same neurosurgeon who is now planning an intensive procedure which would save her life yet again. Our surgeries were performed only 2 days apart, and after about a week of recovery, I was finally able to be wheeled down to visit for 15 minutes at a time as my body would permit. Through everything that we have been through, we stood by one another the whole way, forging an unbreakable bond that more resembles sisters than friends. The ILC Foundation has brought us all together once again for this amazing annual conference to educate and raise awareness about the many complexities of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and the comorbid conditions associated. Although there is more being done today than ever before for EDS awareness, we still are left with more questions than answers to most medical situations that we face. This is why it is crucially important to be in active and open research into EDS on a larger scale. So let's continue to work together and answer the questions that we all desperately need and want answers to. Thank you.
Now, my name is Brooklyn Courtney Mills. Most of you have heard my story many times, so I'll try not to be too repetitive. 7 years ago, a doctor came to me and said there was no specialist in Canada to help, and that's when my family and I were sent to Maryland, and I then was put under the care of Dr. Henderson and his team. I underwent several surgeries that helped save my life and give me a quality of life that I never thought I would have back. Now, fast forward a few years later to now, and the last 3 months have been the hardest 3 months I've ever had to endure. I shouldn't be here today speaking. 3 months ago, I was taken into the hospital and put into a medically induced coma for 10 days due to seizures and sepsis. When I woke, there were many issues that had gotten worse because of the seizures, and I was unable to sit. I was unable to feel anything below my waist, and I had lost all sensation and all movement in my left side, basically paralyzed. And I laid in a hospital bed for 76 days, and they finally did the surgery after 3 months to fuse the last section of my spine. And they didn't think that it was going to fix all of the issues that were going on because there were so many. And the day after surgery, I stood up for the first time in over 3 months, surprising every doctor there. And it was just a very emotional experience. Now, through those months, there was a time where through the 10 days when I was intubated, I lost a lot of hope, and it was the toughest thing that I had to go through. Each day was harder than the last. I am someone who has always been so positive and always try to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I've always tried to strive towards that. But in this moment, it was the first time that ever went through my head of giving up, which, as most of you know, that is something I would never think about doing. As I was laying there, I started remembering all of the people who gave me the strength and wellness to keep pushing forward. Those people, among countless others, are Dr. Henderson, who continuously gave me back my quality of life and helped keep my faith anytime I was ever down. My family, who my mom has basically been by my side every single day and basically given her life to be basically my caregiver. My brothers, of course, and friends. And Shannon, who was a very good friend of mine. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, she did pass away. Now, she struggled with many things. She didn't have the strength to keep going, and so she did give up, but she kept telling me that there was something in me that she just didn't have. And the last things that she told me before she passed away was to never give up, to always go forward, and to spread awareness. And that's what I did. I started speaking more. I started trying to spread as much awareness as I possibly could. And not only that, but I am terrified of public speaking. But because of this, it caused me to, it was so important, not just for me, but to spread awareness to others and to help them get diagnosed in time so something devastating like Shannon wouldn't happen again. It's been extremely difficult, but what I want to say is you truly cannot give up hope, and you always need to push forward, because they told me I was never going to walk again. They told me that I would be in the hospital at least until December. And I told them my goal was to be here and to say a speech at this conference. And they basically laughed and said, "Okay, Brooklyn, if you've got dreams, keep going for them." No one believed me, and so I pushed forward and I tried my best and was able to get out of the hospital within 2 weeks. I'm now 3.5 weeks post-op, and standing here today. And I can't thank you all enough for being there and the support that everyone has given, and just it truly is remarkable of what a group of people can do just by looking at the ILC, and what we've been able to accomplish in the last few years is incredible, with opening a EDS clinic and putting together multidisciplinary doctors to help with diagnosing and basically giving us a little bit more hope in Canada. And I hope that we continue to keep pushing forward, to keep going, to always look at the positives, never look at the negatives. And I just can't thank you enough. Thank you.